Is that better? Good evening, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm the program coordinator for Hope's Promise Orphan Care. Thank you so much for coming this evening. I just want to thank all my amazing volunteers and people who were involved tonight. I could not have done this without you, and I'm so grateful to all of you. I'd like to introduce a very special person, similar to Keenan. Debbie Lee and her husband Brian have been leading trips to Kenya for college students for the past 22 years. And they've actually been a part of our connection trips as well. They helped do on-the-ground leadership for 3 of our teams in Kenya as well, which is also my mom, so there's that connection too. And she has started a business as well with Colleen called Pompatoto that she'll tell you a bit about later. But I just wanted you to start out with just telling us about yourself and a bit about your story.
Sure. Can you guys, is this working? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. Thanks for having me. So the first thing I want to tell you about myself is that I have the most amazing daughter. She's kind, generous, beautiful. Shall I go on? That's all I have to say. I'm going to refer to my notes because my story is long and I shortened it quite a bit. So I'll talk for hours if I don't stay on track here. So forgive me for having to look down every once in a while. So before I tell you about myself, I wanted to start with a familiar scripture that probably most of us have memorized. It's actually Psalm 139 and it's verse 16. And it's the scripture is, all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. So whatever happens in life, he already knows. He knows our past, he knows our present, he knows our future. That's a significant verse for me. A little bit about my history. I grew up as a partial orphan. My mom died when I was 7, and I had an older sister who was 9. She was sick for a long time, and I really have only vague memories of her. She really wasn't around much. She was in the hospital a lot. After she died, my father had a hard time coping, and he sent my sister and I away to another state to live with some relatives. And the relatives that we lived with didn't really like kids, so it was kind of hard. And my dad only came to see us twice during that year. So at age 7, I had a sense of what it meant to be partially orphaned, and I had a sense, in retrospect, of what it was like to be abandoned. So both of those things are pretty significant to my story. He's made me a certain way. I've taken all the tests, the Enneagram, the Myers-Briggs, and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. So I'm an extrovert. I kind of like you guys. I like being with people. I'm pretty artsy. My house is filled with, it's pretty eclectic, things from around the world. My mom was an artist, and I even have some of her art from when I was a young child, which is pretty cool for me. I love to influence people. As Hannah said, we've taken students to Kenya it's been the last 22 summers, and it's been about 700 students. And I love what God does to them through the experiences. You guys have been on, some of you have been on connection trips, many of you, and you understand what that's like. So I love watching people grow and change. I'm a counselor also. I love meeting with people and talking with them. I'm a rescuer, me and Colleen. I just respond when especially children are in need. I'm also a nurse, OB. I delivered babies for many years. And I'm a mom, and I have 3 grandchildren, so I got the grandma thing going too. So, partial orphan and issues of abandonment. So, Kenya's like the perfect place for me. Many years ago, I don't even know what year it was, I was sitting with my husband Brian in a church in Nairobi, a rather large church, and the pastor was speaking on a passage which is very well known, Romans 8:28. But it was during a time in Kenya that was pretty. There was a lot of tribal issues, a lot of violence, and people were quite troubled during that time. And I remember listening to him, thinking, okay, I've heard this verse lots of times. So he read it twice. So the first time he read it the way we all read it out of Scripture. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. Okay, and then he stopped and he read it again. And he said, and we know that in all things, and then in parentheses, good and bad, God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. So he always is working for the good. It just really struck me, and that became one of my verses also for Kenya.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. I think that it really impacts the rest of what you're going to talk about tonight, to hear your past and to be able to hear how that influenced your story. So I wanted to share a picture with you. Put that up. So this is a little boy named Sammy. The picture you see up